Hello, 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 and welcome. I am pleased to be here today, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a little bit of a. It's quite a personal. It's a personal take, a personal subject, and it's a subject which I guess relates to, namely, mostly to performers, but at the same time, I think that something like this actually relates to everyone on some level. And the topic today is about stage fright, and it's about my experience with stage fright. It's about my experience with fear, I guess, fear of being out in front of people, fear of public speaking, fear of losing my voice, fear of all these kind of fears which stage fright sort of encompasses. And I think that it goes through a lot of layers which we have in everyday life. So as a performer and as a singer, I have a very different job to other people in a band. And I think what happens is that there is that these types of how to put it, behaviors, the type of job that I have, which is to go on stage and sing, and it's all based around your voice. It puts you on a level which is very different from a guitarist and drummer and a bassist, just a musician, that there is this buffer. And I think it largely comes down to it's a buffer in with regards to what you need from health. And because the voice is so delicate, because it's based on because largely the voice is the first thing to go if you become ill, like if you get a cold or if you shout or have drunk something. And it's so delicate that it then leads on into things like concerns about people spraying perfume around, people spraying. I mean, a big one for me is dry shampoo or hairspray or anything like that in confined dressing rooms. So then and I'll say I'll come forward and say, listen, guys, can we not have it X, Y, and Z? And they go, oh, Diva Dan over here, and I understand. I sort of embrace it a little bit, but at the same time, I understand where these things come from, and they generally and genuinely come from a place of professionalism, because when your job is to go out and entertain people and it's based on your voice being at a certain level, so I can sing certain songs if I'm at, say, 70%. I can sing certain songs if I'm at 50%. There are certain songs that I cannot sing unless I am 90% plus, and that's health. And there's some songs I can't sing unless I'm like 98%. And if you have to go out and perform these songs and your voice isn't that, or your voice is at that, and it's teetering on a knife edge, and some inconsiderate guy comes in and is blowing a vape pen, and people are like, but vape pen, who cares? Or there's dry ice, dry ice, dry ice. I mean, the fact that even in the name it says dry, and and like a smoke machine. I'm going off another thing. Smoke machines. When smoke machines are around, and people are like, well, they're oil based. I'm like, they're oil based. Oil, oil. You ever tried washing oil off a pan? You have to get like degreaser stuff to put on it. Or you can put that on. You can't, like, if it goes on my vocals, it's gonna stick. So there's all this stuff with my physiology that I have to be very, very, very careful about. So where does this fit into stage fright? Well, this kind of issue comes into things because it's another thing to worry about. It's one thing. Let's take public speaking first, and then we'll get on into, like, that's a whole other issue. Because at first you've got to say, right, I'm going to step out onto stage in front of however many people. I play, like, some of my most nerve-wracking experiences have been playing to like one person, two people. You ever tried serenading someone? Unless you're just totally in the flow, or it's pretty difficult to not get like a little bit nervous or whatever. And then try singing in front of 23,000 people. And some people would be happier singing in front of 23,000 people than they would like serenading someone that they really cared about and they wanted to really impress. So being on stage and putting yourself forward as someone, because you instantly open yourself up to ridicule. You know that there's eyes on you that are judging you. Whether they are or then they aren't, you know they are. It's not even you think they are, you know they are. And that could be false. People could be all rooting for you. But you know, even if what you know is wrong, you're not lying to yourself. You're like, they are judging me. They're all judging me. And you don't want to open yourself up to that ridicule. So going on stage, I remember, I'll tell you a little story. It's very different when I sort of think about how far I've come in my journey. And it is a journey. It's not something being in front of a camera, being able to talk to you like this and putting myself out there like this is not something that came overnight. I knew it was a place that I wanted to get to. And I think there's still more for me to learn. I'm always learning. I'm always looking at seeing how other people do things, etc. I'm always analyzing my own work, etc. I want to be better just all the time. It's a journey and I love the journey. I was in college and I was with my drama class and we'd gone to, it was like I don't know, it was like a workshop thing. I don't remember much about what this thing was. I remember it being pretty useless, except this one thing which highlighted me to myself. Whether it highlighted me to anyone else, probably, but no one else cared. Not really. But to me, it showed me where I was at and how comfortable I was at being on stage and being called out. So we were all sat down and we all had to, for some reason, we had to write our names down on something or other and we had to hand them in. And they had a list of names, the organizers, and I think there was maybe about 400 people in this like auditorium. And they were the organizers of it who were doing this like seminar or whatever the hell it was, were on stage and they were going, they were like calling people out. And I was like, man, I really feel sorry for whoever's being called out on some of these things. And some of the actors, like students, were very good who came forward, etc. Anyway, it came to this one point and they, you know what's going to happen? Daniel Leigh. Can we get Daniel Leigh up on stage? And like my heart sank, the adrenaline kicked into my body, and suddenly all the eyes of my drama lot are turned on me, and I'm like, oh, mother of God. And you feel yourself, don't know if you ever felt this, you feel yourself just levitating up, and you're like, I'm moving towards the stage, and there's this whole part of you which is going, turn around, turn around, turn around. Don't do this. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? But you just smile on your face and you kind of walk towards these gaping maws of your fate, which is sort of is mental. And you're going towards something which is very, very difficult. And you have no idea what's coming up. I hadn't rehearsed for this. I didn't know what they were going to ask of me. So they sat me down at this table, and I remember sitting like this. And I sat with my shoulders hunched forward, and I was leaning forward, and I wanted to make myself as small as possible. I didn't want to be there at all. And then they got me doing all these things. They got me tried to get, like, when you're that nervous and when you You really don't want to be somewhere, and then someone says, right, now be creative. A lot of the time you find artists put themselves in solitude to get creative. They get away from things. They don't say, right, give me an audience to be creative in front of. I know that's something that I've uh, delved into, but it wasn't an easy thing to step into, being creative in front of other people. So being creative and just improvising in front of 400 people of my peers was very, very difficult. And they were getting me to, I remember them giving me like, they said, Daniel, you are a businessman. I want you to be like, buy, sell, money, money, money. And I want you to do it this way. And I remember going, buy, sell, money, money, money. God knows what on earth I look like. I remember it as quite a traumatic experience, but it was something that taught me a lot about myself because, and I got a lot from, I remember it's Katie Southwood. She said to me, she goes, oh, Daniel, you just look like a scared little bunny on stage. I was like, whoa. And I always remembered that. I always remember her saying that, you look like a scared little bunny. You look like a scared little bunny. And she wasn't being mean. She wanted to comfort me with that. And I was like, I ain't mad at you, but I don't want that. I don't want that reaction from anyone. I'm supposed to be a performer here. Like the last thing I want is people go, "Oh, bless him." No. That was not what I wanted. So what did I do next? I started embracing things. I started saying yes to a lot of things which were maybe a bit more difficult than I was maybe used to, just to sort of put myself out there. And I remember it came to, I'd always say yes to things like within music. I would say yes to things which were a bit out of my comfort zone, which I think I've kept to this day. And I remember I, I remember I got asked to play guitar. I had two things coming up on this one day. I had a performance to do with a band that asked me if I wanted to play. It was a Cause song, the band Cause. What can I do to make you love me? All that kind of stuff. But they had this one song where there was zero vocals in it, but it was like a real violin piece. And there was this one kid. What was his name? I want to say Patrick, but I don't think it was Patrick. And he played the violin, and he wanted me to play the guitar part. And he wanted me to be a bit of a hype man as well, and like, get the audience clapping and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I can do that. So when I had a guitar on, I was sort of fine. And within music, I sort of expressed myself a lot more. Without the guitar, when it was just acting, that's where I sort of fell down. And I thought, okay. And for the musical performance, because it was an Irish thing, and I'm part Irish, etc. And I had my hair plaited, right? So I had my hair plaited, and I had this green and white bits of ribbon. I don't know where the heck I got these things from, but I had my girlfriend at the time plait my hair, and I had her tie these green bits of ribbon and white ribbon for this performance. And I had an exam to do on the day of this performance. It was a drama exam, so it was a drama performance, and it was a section from The Importance of Being Earnest. And I was playing Algernon, and my Algernon was always this quite sort of, as far as I understood him, was quite a flamboyant character. He was quite a gobby character, and I thought, and I said to our teacher, I said, listen, I'm going to keep all this in. And I had a green suit. Oh my God. Just think about it. It's just funny. I had a green suit on. my hair was plaited and I had these things on. So I encompassed that into the character, and we used it. And it was one of those things that when I embraced it, when I embraced the almost the ridiculousness of everything, suddenly it became, when I started to own it, everything changed a lot. And I became funnier. The laughs, when I embraced it, the laughs that I got from the audience, the examiner laughed. The examiner laughed. I remember people saying that they're watching the examiner, laughing away, and then sort of catching the people that sort of caught her laughing. And then, oh, be serious, be serious, be serious. And I thought that was great. And that taught me a very valuable lesson, because it wasn't about being comfortable that helped me get over what I needed to get over. And I think that's something to really, really think about in life, is that if you have an issue, just backing away from it is not going to make you get over the issue. If you want wisdom or intelligence, you're going to have to do some reading. You're going to have to do some learning. If you want to be strong, you're going to have to lift up some weights. If you want to be someone who is resilient, you're going to have to go through some crap in life to know how to get back up. So I started embracing things that were more difficult, things I hadn't done before. I started doing things that I found difficult again and again and again and again. When people told me, don't go near such and such, they're on the warpath, I was like, I'm going to go talk to them. I remember, I'll tell you another story. And it's not, I know I'm sort of getting a bit away from sort of stage fright with some of these stories, but they really do make a lot of sense, because when you do something that you find difficult, and when you do something that you think, I didn't think I could do that, and then suddenly you can do it, suddenly I talk about this a lot, your circle of influence. People talk about circle of influence. So like what you are able to influence within your circle of influence might be like that big. But if you do something which, if you're in the middle of that circle and you break out of that, suddenly your circle of influence grows. And now suddenly there's all these other things which are in that circle, which you then have influence over. And it doesn't mean that you have, I can control this person, I have influence. No. It's what you can do, what you feel confident in doing, who you feel confident in talking to. What, to some people, walking down the street is a nightmare. To some people have a fear of needles. Some people have a fear of calling people up on the phone. Not now, but it was. I had a fear of calling people on the phone, and especially people that I knew could help me in life, in my career. I don't know what it was exactly. I haven't thought about it in so long, because if people go, can you call so and so? I'll go, yeah, I'll call them. No problem. I wouldn't like calling them, but I would say yes to it. I would say, yeah, okay, let me call them. And then I made it my job to call people. So people would then call me up and say, can you call such and such? And I became the call guy. That it became my job. Like, that was part of what I did. And I didn't want to do it, but it was a fake it till you make it sort of vibe. And I think I heard 50 Cent say, he said, you can woo yourself into a good place. And I really believe that. I really, truly believe that. If there's stuff that you find difficult, if speaking in front of a crowd, because one of the biggest fears, it's not, I know, like death, sharks, I can't remember what they were, but like in the top 5 biggest fears people have is public speaking. Whoa. public speaking. Like, it's not like everyone in the crowd has got a bow and arrow, you know, or a tomahawk or a catapult or even rotten fruit and veg, which can't kill you, but it just doesn't feel nice. But just speaking in front of people in public, that's the issue. Whoa, nuts. But if you do have, if you have any fear like that, or any fear at all about anything, confronting the fear, because fear is a weird thing, because it actually is, I mean, it's actually your friend. I was thinking it's not your friend if it's protecting you from something that could kill you, but it's still your friend because because in that sentence it is protecting you from something that can kill you. Fear is always your friend if you see fear in the right way. So if you're afraid of doing something, I think that that says, okay, is it protecting me from something? Chances are yes, because if you, okay, let's take public speaking. If you are afraid of public speaking, what is fear protecting you of? Well, fear protects you, sorry, what is fear protecting you from? So fear is protecting you from the, it says don't do that, and if you don't do that, it then protects you from feeling nervous, feeling anxious, potentially stuttering on stage. Something awful could go wrong, and especially if it's being filmed, then you know, or you could think of a million things. So it's protecting you from that. Okay, so it's fear. Fear remains your friend there. However, fear is also saying you're afraid of this. Now, on the other side of me, I promise you, there's something good. There is something good on the other side of what I am. So whatever you're afraid of, if you get over that, if you work with me, just come through me. Think of fear as this, like, it's almost like sludge. And you kind of work yourself through it. And you're like, I don't like this. This is really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. It's, I'm thinking of another analogy now. Fear, the gym is fear. That's it. The gym is fear. The gym represents fear because it's uncomfortable. You're lifting weights. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. This is horrible. This hurts. This hurts. Oh, more pain, more gain. Oh, shut up. You know, all that kind of stuff. Yet on the other side of it, you might sort of feel, oh, gosh, that's horrible. And then 2 days later, you're now stronger. And someone goes, should we go back to the gym? Oh, no, I don't want to go to the gym. Let's go to the gym. Okay, fine. You go to the gym and you do it. And suddenly it's a bit easier. And then you go, oh, that's a bit easier. And then you go again. And suddenly the weights that you were doing are a bit easier. It's fractal. It's the same thing. Like I can explain this a million different ways. You guys get it, right? I'm sure you do. But putting yourself, I'm not talking about putting yourself in harm's way. I'm not saying, hey, you're afraid. What you need to do is start like fire breathing, or you need to start like, you know, playing with the traffic. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But irrational fears, things like this, there are ways of getting over it. And this is me just talking about my ways of dealing with things. I have done some very intense ways I've done of getting over fears. My experience with stage fright, where I had such stage fright that I would lose my voice, like some mostly irrational fears, but fears that weren't out of the realms of possibility that could happen. I could lose my voice, and we'd have to go home, or we'd, you know, I'd let the whole band down. Just terrible things are circulating in my head. My stage fright was so bad that I would remove myself from the band environment and go and find. I remember myself meditating at the Glasgow ABC1 women's toilets. by myself. It was relatively quiet. I could hear my band sound checking without me, and I was sat meditating. And I had my meditation methods, and they were they were things that I'd sort of made myself to fill me with strength, to be say I can do this. And I'd have to warm up a lot to sort of know where my voice was at, and just really pay attention, and being conscious of everything that I was doing and eating and how I was talking. And then and I'm never totally without the butterflies. I'm on hundreds of live streams now, and at the very start I was so nervous. I'm not saying that there's times I still get nervous, especially if I've been away from something for a while, because when you and I'd say consistency is a real key. Like, just keep keep doing it. Like in Top Gun, when Maverick, Tom Cruise, he's a bit of a spoiler here, but he loses Goose, and he doesn't really feel good about flying, and they're like, just keep sending him up. And he's a lot worse, and they like, keep sending him up, just keep sending him up, send him up, and it's just keep doing it. Fake it until you make it. And I know I'm sort of like jumping across lots of different things at the moment, but going on stage and smiling, that was a big thing for me. So to be someone who is perceived to be okay and perceived to be in control. And there's like scientific studies where like even a fake laugh, like actually has a good effect on your body. Like that I wasn't laughing at anything. I was just going, but that has released, I guess, a bit of dopamine in my brain or something. And you can almost, I don't want to say trick, but it is woo. It is to woo yourself into into a new state. And I think that's very, very cool. And I've had people say to me, "Oh, Daniel, you wear masks and everything," and I'm like, "Do I? Do I really?" And I think I've come to terms with stuff like that, where I actually think that people who say things like that to me, saying that I wear masks and I'm not being genuine, I think that they are actually delving into a great deal of hypocrisy, because to anyone who says that, I will say, okay, well, do you swear? And then they'll say, well, of course I do. More often than not, someone says a bad word at some point. Say, okay, would you swear in front of, but if you were in church? Well, no. Okay, well, would you swear if you were visiting your grandmother? No, she'd tell me off. Okay, would you wear a bikini in the winter? Well, no, but it's out of context. There you go. It's out of context. The context that we're in, like, I'm not. I have my performance vibe. I don't necessarily think it's a mask. It's because I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm expressing myself there, and I don't think that I need to express myself that way in all of life. It's exhausting. I don't need to express myself this way. I feel very calm right now. At the same time, I feel very passionate right now. And I'm locking into part of my memory so I can explain it to you as an audience. So, wearing different masks, I mean, I have many different facets of my personality, which I'm sure you watching this at home also has as well, because we have times when we want to let loose and party. We have times we want to be very quiet. We have times when we want to connect with people on a very deep level. We have times when we want to connect with people just by with things that are very, very silly. And sometimes we want to cry alone. Sometimes we want to cry with other people. Sometimes we want to laugh. Sometimes we feel ashamed of laughing, but we can't help it. But it's just who we are. And I would say when you start to embrace yourself in new ways, in when it comes to things that you are afraid of, because ultimately my experience of stage fright is really just my experience dealing with fear. And I'll tell you another story, just a quick one. I remember there was a guy who had a lot of power over a band I was in, and he was a big guy. And there was rumors that he could be quite violent. Either way, regardless of all that, he was very loud. And at this particular event, he was very, very drunk. And he hadn't got his way with something, or it hadn't something that he had hoped would happen, which was we would like instantly be signed and snapped up and he'd make a whole bunch of money, hadn't happened straight away. I don't think that was ever going to happen with who this guy was. This guy wasn't the money man. He wasn't the decision maker. Yet this other guy, the big guy, the angry, scary guy, thought this guy was something he wasn't. Anyway, this guy had a go at a load of my band, and I hadn't witnessed this, and I'd been packing up, and then I came back, and everyone's like on these tenterhooks, and some people came up to me and they said, "Listen, stay away from such and such. He is on the warpath. He's had a massive go at Phil, at Rob, and he's gone off at everyone. You don't want to be next." And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to go talk to him. And I made a beeline for him. And I sat down next to him at the bar. He was by himself, and I was ready to go toe to toe with him. He's a much bigger guy than me, but I don't like bullies, and I think confronting. This is the thing with bullies: you confront a bully, whew, you watch them back down, because it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all smoke and mirrors, and they'll respect you for it. And we had a great conversation, me and this guy. We had a good chat, and I felt everyone like watching me like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I admit I was nervous because I thought I was going into something which could be, quite bad. But I was in that zone where it was the final night of this tour, and part of me had been through hell. I'd really been through some tough times in this tour. It was really, really bad for me. And I thought, and this is where and this is prime example of where your circle of influence grows, because I've been through all this stuff. I'd been through the fear barrier. I'd been so afraid. I've been through such levels of endurance. I'd had to endure so much on this tour that by the end of it, and people were like, stay away from that guy. He's on the warpath. I'm like, what on earth can this guy do to me now? I've just been through all this. This guy can't do anything to me. What's he gonna do? Shout in my face? Oh no, heaven forbid. I mean, even if he got violent, I'd still be like, "You're putting my kids through college, buddy." Like, he's not gonna get violent. He's not gonna get like, chill out. What am I gonna get? A shouting at? What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? Honestly, because your guy didn't make the decision that you wanted? Come on, man. And I'd realized that my circle of influence had grown more. Everyone else had a different experience or had dealt with fear in a different way, and most of everyone else's fear was, and this is no disrespect to them, they had backed away. This guy represented some sort of fear, some sort of barrier or danger, and everyone had gone, "Whoa," they'd parted, and I'd gone straight for him. And I really do encourage people to do that. That's been my experience with fear and with dealing with stage fright. Main things is fake it until you make it. Smile. Your physiology. We go into this like a lot. Like I can do numerous chats on this about fear because it ranges through almost every part of our lives because it is a survival mechanism. It's a healthy, helpful survival tool. If you use it as a tool and you do not let it be the thing that rules you. If you're ruled by fear, I genuinely don't believe that you will be able to be happy because you're constantly going to be in an anxiety, a state of anxiety, an anxious state. If you can love the journey and be like, well, the whatever I'm in now is difficult, but I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to see what I can enjoy in this, then doors really do start opening up for you. And you become easier about a whole heap of things that you didn't even realize that you were maybe struggling with, etc. So I think I'm going to leave it there because I could just keep talking about this a lot. And I know we've kind of only really touched on stage fright, etc., but it really does come under the umbrella of fear. And let's remember fear, FEAR, false evidence appearing real. When these things are false, they don't mean anything. It's false evidence, but it appears real. It appears real. It is an illusion. Fear is like, I'm this big scary thing. But if you then put like a silly face on that fear and like, that's your fear, and they feel like, why are you making me, what's these stupid, I look like an idiot. Like, yeah, you do look like an idiot. So how about you just move to the side and let me move towards it? And then he jumps on your back and goes, I'm still here. I'm your fear. I'm still here. I'm your fear. And you go, yeah, shut up. And then that fear begins to diminish and get smaller. False evidence appearing real. And that illusion, you can make it disappear and you can turn that fear into something else. And it's very, very powerful. And I'm telling you this because I hate seeing people not do things with their lives that I know they are capable of. Because I think that's one of my gifts, is to be able to see potential in a great deal of things. The next stage for me is really to see the potential in me, which I know sounds funny, but like there's certain, and it comes down to self-worth and things like this, but I'm very, and that's a whole other story, but the understanding of having the foresight to see, I can see, if someone hands me a song, I go, okay, I can see the potential there. And then and it's to take inventory. So then I say, oh, and one of the large things is to say, to look at what we have. Like, what do I have? Not what I don't have, to make myself afraid. Like, what do I have? Take an inventory, see what we've got. Not what we don't have, see what we've got. And I can look at a person and go, and here's the good in you. And a lot of people don't use what they're good at because they look at their shortcomings and say, well, I can't develop this because I'm carrying all of this. And I think it's a crying shame when people don't move towards their potential because of the guilt and this big boulder they put on their back. They put on their own back. It's not put on there by anyone else. And no one can put that stuff on you. They can tell you this should be on your back, but it's your decision to carry that nonsense around with you, which is what's so wonderful about fear, is that it is your fear. It's not anyone else's that they're putting in you, because you have to accept it. It's like that. Man, I could go on about this for hours. But it's like the vampire. You like it knocks on the door or the window and goes, "Let me in, let me in, let me in." Sorry to those of you wearing headphones. It's supposed to be scary because it wants to sound scary. Let me in. Let me in. And then you go, oh, okay, I'll let you in. But you have to let it in. And then when it's in, it then can run amok. And don't let it in. Just say, no. No. I will deal with you on my terms. Okay? I'll deal with you on my terms. When you start letting the demons into your mind, into your heart, and into the things that you say, and then into the things that you do, that's where things go wrong. So take control of these things that you fear. Move towards them. Take the fight to them. Take the fight to the things that you find uncomfortable. Grow and experience life in a whole new way as yourself, and experience the things that you really would like to experience. Embracing fear in ways that you never thought possible. And it all starts with small steps. You don't have to do things in this huge, it doesn't have to be, like I say, it doesn't have to be huge haymakers all the time. So, it can just be small things like, I'm going to talk to 5 people. This is something I did. Okay, I'll tell you something I did, and then we'll go. There was an exercise to get for confidence, and it was talk to 5 people today that you don't know and you've never met before. Talk to 5 people today that you've never met before. On paper, that sounds pretty simple. Okay. To some people, that's a nightmare. And I remember getting up out of my house, and I think I went to a corner shop or something, and I just bought like a chocolate bar or something, and I said, "Hello, how are you?" And they were like, "Not bad." And I was like, "Okay, how's business?" Whatever. And that was that. And then I think I took it to a supermarket, and there was this like young lady, and she was stood looking at bread or something, and I went, "Oh God, there's so many. I never know which one I need." And she was like, "Yeah, da, 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 da." And I just remember thinking, and that was the extent of the interaction. I was in, and and that was, I think maybe in the first day, that was the only 2 I had. The next day might have been 3, and the next day maybe might have been 6, and the next day, I then felt more. And then that was an easy thing to do. I was like, well, I can do that now. It doesn't matter. You tell me to talk to 100 people today. I could do it. Fine. The biggest challenge would be finding 100 people. Move towards your fears, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Hope you found this interesting, maybe a little bit enlightening. And yeah, if you can make use of this, I really hope you are able to move forward in your lives in bold and confident ways. Take care of yourselves. This is what this is all about. Take care of yourselves. Stay frosty. Thank you very much for being here. My name's Daniel Leigh, and this has been a little chat in, I guess it is primarily about my dealings with stage fright, but it is about tackling your fears, and we'll delve into this stuff in many, many different ways. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.